Namaste, India. This is your host, Neha Chawla. Welcome to the episode 3 of Journey of Changemakers and Social Entrepreneurs, an impact talk show in which we get inspirational stories of NGOs and we make it stronger through your support. Today, we have with us Ms. Payal Rajpal, who's the Director of Robotics India, South Asia Head, Robotics International, founder Hack the Crisis India. Ms. Rajpal is a pioneer in bringing robotics, artificial intelligence, and STEM education to government schools in rural India. Robotics India has coached over 20,000 underprivileged government school students, girls who build robots, robotics for rural as one of their parent programs. In the pandemic lockdown, thousands of underprivileged students from government schools were educated digitally in an all online environment. Hi, Payal. Welcome to NGO Story.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Payal. It's a pleasure having you on board. To set the context, can you first, give us a brief on what Robotics International is and how you guys started with the Robotics India vertical?
Right, absolutely. So when we talk about Robotics International, it is it's in its 22nd year now, and it's a 21-year-old institution that was set on the premise to provide a platform to all the technological innovations that are created by not just the K-12 or school, college, university students, but also the early stage startups. Robotics International stems from Estonia, which is one of the first countries that has the maximum number of unicorns coming out per capita. The population of that country is 1.3 million. Therefore, those many number of unicorns makes them the highest. So Robotics International began its premise with a championship platform that then, has a lot of corporates, startups, governments, and other forums and bodies, which are also then looking at this talent, which is being displayed by the young budding entrepreneurs. So we're talking about robotics, humanoids, sumo robots, coding inventions, all of it. And that's when we realized that this also served as a foundation for then progressing into scholarships and internships for the students. We launched Robotics India in 2018, again with the same model and premise of championships. In our first championship, we sort of realized a few things, and I'll answer that in your next question. But robotics is basically a platform for the young talent to be showcased and a bridge to be created between education to employment and entrepreneurship.
Correct. So, Payal, if we talk about introducing technology in the government schools or in the non-profit schools, so how easy or difficult it was for you to penetrate the market here? Because embracing technology is something which has been quite difficult in the impact ecosystem, right? So they might not be having access to the laptops. They might not be having access to any such kind of technology, and also the educators who are there as a part of the government schools, they aren't that much trained. So how easy or difficult it was for Robotics India, to introduce its initiatives. And of course, we will talk at length about the initiatives. And so firstly, if you could just take us through how difficult it was, to introduce technology here.
Right. So let me begin with a real life incident that sort of took place in 2018, which I referred to in my previous answer as well. At our national championship, there were sort of two children that came up to me, and one of them said that should we happen to give our presentation in a vernacular language, which is not English, is that ever going to impact our score for the competition? And instantaneously, I said, no, it will not. However, I was quite fascinated to to know what the story behind is. They presented. They went on to become podium finishers at the national championship. And then I asked them that where did you get this idea from? It was an agricultural bot that they created to reduce the seed sowing time by a small percentage. And it wasn't a fancy bot. It was, a hardwired robot. That's when the child said to me that this was a hand-me-down bot that they had received from a house where their mom works as a domestic help. And the little sort of data that they had, they spent that looking up videos on YouTube. And that's how they learned how to sort of program the bot and created that project. That's when I took a look at the entire sort of arena of, robotics championship. And I saw that what I see is a sea of absolutely early childhood, fabulous talent. But what I don't see is children from the government schools and the rural schools. And that is where the idea of robotics for rural was born. And within 2 months of this incident happening of a national championship, is we quickly sort of ramped it out. To then answer your question as to how much of a hitchhike it is to find, devices with the children. Yes, our country still sort of clearly faces the geographical digital divide in terms of devices and also in terms of internet. So the children that we have sort of trained so far, Wi-Fi is unheard of, electricity is an issue at times, and so is mobile data. They are children from one device homes. There are about 5% of them that have tabs that have been given to them by different charities or Lenovo or corporates, but the remaining come from one device family. So yes, it's been a wonderful hitchhike, I would say. It's been as strenuous as climbing the mountain, but then we reached the top and we know what the success adrenaline sort of means like.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, all right. So definitely, I can totally resonate with that. It might have been a very, very difficult situation in terms of introducing technology to them. And especially given the pandemic, you guys have been conducting the online classes. So access to internet for all of those households and, they're logging in from the different devices, arrangement around that, the operational, efforts around that might have been really big there. So in the context of COVID, Payal, if you could brief us about how the team had, joined hands in terms of running the different initiatives. If at all there were any codeathons, any hackathon, which, what the team had conducted, any innovative program which you thought, could be the need of the hour, during this time.
So when we begin our robotics for rural in 2019, and, we all know how the NGOs survive, who's the backbone of it, which are predominantly the donors. At this point, I had sort of largely pulled in a lot of my savings into this project. And we had active donors who had also contributed to this. When sort of COVID struck in March 2020, there was sort of a absolutely, God-sent initiative that took place, which then sort of led us on to how could we then conduct this digitally. We founded, me and, Gayatri Chabria, who was then a part of an initiative called Hack the Crisis India. This was launched as an annual contributor event for FICCI Flow Pune. What Hack the Crisis India did was joined forces with the main Hack the Crisis, which was a hackathon initiated to find non-medical COVID solutions via technology. This is where we saw participation from 15,000 people to 1,300 teams and about 300 plus technology solutions that came out. We launched it in March 2020, just as when we entered lockdown, and we successfully concluded the first leg of it on the 5th of April 2020. And this was all a 48-hour hackathon where all the teams participated, displayed their solutions. We had an amazing leadership board, all jury members. So when this happened, we were then invited by the Global Hack, which was then 110 plus countries and participating nations showcasing their global innovations. Ministry of IT and Electronics was supporting Vicky for Pune and Agri Crisis India for this event, and a lot of other corporate bodies as well. India went on to win 7 podium positions at the Global Hack, and innovative solutions that of UV rays disinfectant robots to clean, a COVID ward 85% faster than human intervention, to aqua hand sanitizers, cheapest ventilators for 10,000 rupees. All these innovations were then displayed. Digital hospitals, mental health apps, all of this. This then gave us the confidence that if we can become one of the first largest hackathons in the country at the peak of lockdown in COVID, we can easily replicate our robotics workshops because the money was already invested by the donors. That's when we created a virtual classroom via a learning management system that requires very little bandwidth. The children needed a 3G device. It worked like an Amazon Prime or a Netflix on their phone. They had materials to read, pre-recorded videos to watch, quizzes and assessment to take. And then parallelly, we started running robotics live sessions on Zoom. Because these children came from single homes of devices, we then had to run the workshops either on the weekends or after 6 p.m., etc. And those Zoom sessions would then also go onto the LMS. Should any children have missed it, it was all there in one place without requiring any additional internet for them to sort of see. And that's how we sort of began taking baby steps. My team has been a contributor to hundreds of WhatsApp groups because we had created these groups in, batches of 50 to 40, going up to 100, everyday coordination on voting on which is a good time to run it. If they have examinations, the children would side message our trainers and go, could we have the session on the weekend? I have the phone on the weekend. And I will play a video, before I take your lead, for you and the audience to see what they have created. So we created a virtual classroom. The children were absolutely enthusiastic. We had schools telling us, the district, the government school teachers telling us that we're not getting any attendance. And Robotics has 85% attendance. But then that's how they learn coding. What happens when the physical bot had to reach them? We made sure even during lockdown, we got special permissions. We made our bot and our people reach the school. Children couldn't leave homes. That's when the parents stepped in, and the parents went to the school to collect the bots on behalf of the children. That's when the t-shirts, merchandise bots reached the kids. They started their hardware training. Everything from programming to calibrating a bot was done on a live Zoom session. And we were amazed that the children learned it. And we're looking at children anywhere from the 6th grade going up to the 9th grade, right? So 6 and 7 are really young to sort of then get this tricky part of calibrating the bot, but they got it. And then they created some amazing line follower projects. And we were all amazed that what have we achieved? What have the children done? And, the children created a voice-enabled robot that gave a message to the people, stay home, stay safe. They created COVID the food delivery, oxygen delivery vans in their little homes on the little tracks that they built. So yes, it was an absolutely fascinating learning on every step kind of a journey for us. But we did achieve, astonishingly, what we had never aimed to achieve. We never thought this would have been possible. But yes, a great team, lots of effort, conviction, diligence made it happen.
Sounds wonderful, Payal. And, if you talk about academics, if you talk about math, English, any other subject, if you conduct that virtually, it is still okay, in terms of teaching and the children assimilating the concept. But if you talk about robotics, chatbot, technology, this is something, which the child would like to learn in person. But the way you are narrating that, they showed a very positive response towards the online classes, and they were able to accomplish it. They were able to come up with different projects. It is wonderful to know that the journey has been really overwhelming for them. What has been the response of their parents? Their parents are supportive in this particular journey. They also might be like really overwhelmed with the entire process, like how the students are learning, how their children are learning technology.
They were extremely supportive in a way that, my team has received messages from the parents saying, my child is crying, I have no data on my phone, or I have to be at my work, and they haven't completed the LMS. They will not make it to, let's say, a particular competition, because day in, day out, there was engagement by a team on the WhatsApp group with these children, because how do you keep them engaged? They're kids after all. So we've had frantic parents call saying, could you stretch the timeline for another day? We've had parents calling and telling us, so we have, a 7th grader. He is raised by a single mom who works as a security guard. And she called one of her trainers the other day saying that if it wasn't for you, I had no clue my child would ever sort of learn coding, have a bot, and make the project that he made. He made a biomedical waste degradable dustbin from the bot to sort of dispose, COVID masks, gloves, etc. And all of this is there on our social media. We've had parents speaking on their experiences. Our YouTube, Robotics India YouTube, is filled with what the children have made from the beginning to the end. So it's been amazing to see not only the parents, right, but we've had older siblings who then have the phone and they've got to work, and they've said that, listen, my brother or my sister can't do this. Can we have the session an hour later? There are children who've taken the devices of their grandparents and, have studied. So it's absolutely amazing what conviction and one goal can sort of make us do.
What has been, if I talk about your response to COVID, the response of Robotics India's team to COVID, any marketing strategy or any in terms of, maintaining the number of students, trying to engage them. So what all strategies the team had adopted, to ensure continued learning amongst the government school students?
So, like, I said in my answer before that at the end of it, these are children, these are kids. Their attention span is very, very small. They need to be kept entertained. And for us, it means engaged. But for them, it means entertained. So what we have on the LMS is also either interactive, pictorial, graphical, or in the form of video, which will keep them engaged. If we were going to give them a sort of chapter that said, what is a robot? What is AI? What is coding? They're just going to browse through and go, can't be bothered. But then we have to make it a lot interactive and engaging and entertaining for the children. And we wanted them to see that this could be like a educational movie that you are watching. At the end of it, you're going to create an amazing toy. And that's how we started. So a lot of these sort of interactive, reflective sessions. Secondly, our entire robotics team is, I think they're all driven, and the reason I say I think is because they're not here with me today on the interview. So I will say that, I know that they're driven from their heart. Like my entire team works. I don't think they think from their head, but they think from their heart. So
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I think we went off for a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So would you like to talk about any upcoming initiative or any ongoing initiative by Robotics India, and how do you think it can benefit people?
So there are two sort of upcoming initiatives that we are working on. One is the Robotics Championship, which is going to be a all digital championship, open for everyone, from sort of school to colleges, unis, and early stage startups to show their technological innovations. Again, it's going to be a 48-hour hackathon. There will be different sort of tracks from environment, manufacturing, education, pandemic economy, recovery, etc. So the different tracks is where the participants can show their technological innovations. So that's something which is coming up as soon as September. We are again, doing this in collaboration with governments, forums like Wikiflow, corporates. So all of them bringing together to sort of execute this championship. Winners of Robotics India then participate in Robotics Asia and International that takes place online. I'm not sure if the students can travel to Shanghai or Estonia for these championships. So that's one of our upcoming sort of events. And the second is we are sort of ramping up majorly on our second flagship program, which we call Girls Who Build Robots. So we are Wikiflow and a few state governments, we're sort of ramping up on that for yet again the Kanya Shalas and girls schools in the different states.
Okay. So are there any virtual programs, which people can be a part of, where they can kind of log into, from the comfort of their home or probably, participate from any location? So any virtual programs which Robotics India has or any upcoming event?
We don't as of now, because all our sessions are sessions for the rural, urban sort of government schools. But if we do sort of plan a session, I think it's going to be a session where we will call it an R&R, or reward and recognition, a showcase of what our children have created so far, in like a 1 hour live audience thing. So we sort of in the planning stage yet, but we shall keep you posted on that.
All right, Payal, this sounds wonderful. Any closing thoughts which you have, from your journey? Any inspirational thought, any closing thought which you have, which you would like to share with everyone?
So going to share a very sort of, intriguing thought when we talk about the takeaway, the, peaceful sleep that you sort of get in the night after contributing to sort of efforts like these. And I'm a classic case of reverse brain drain. I'd relocated from the UK to India almost like a decade ago and found my solace in this. My team is, again, a really young team, and sort of then gives me the faith that Generation Z or millennials are so keen on working towards a societal upliftment and good cause. So, yeah, my parting comments are going to be that, we've realized over the last few years that skills, knowledge, and know-how, collectively called human capital, have become an enormous share of global wealth. It's bigger than produced capital, such as factories, industries, natural resources. The biggest returns will come from educating and nurturing our future generation, empowering them with the right kind of future skills, and ensuring that social safety nets increase their resilience. So the foundation that our if someone asks us why did you take up robotics, coding, artificial intelligence, why did you merge life skills to it, it's because when we read this interesting article of World Economic Forum that said that 2030, the jobs of 2030 will not be the jobs that are sort of available today. Therefore, we would constantly need reskilling, skilling, or the skills of tomorrow to be taught today. And that's the sort of, premise we, focused on and sort of worked upon. And when we talk about our girls initiative, there was a very interesting, quote that I read by James Emin that said, if you educate a man, you simply educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. And that's the premise that our Girls Who Build Robots is sort of built on.
This is wonderful, Payal. I'm sure that people are already seeking inspiration from this. I wish you and your team all the best with the wonderful things that you guys are doing. You're trying to introduce technology. You're trying to empower the real India, as we say. So thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on board. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. And Neha, as we discussed, could we play, a video of what the children have done at the end of this, or would you want to sort of attach that in later?
We can have that. If you want, we can share it right away as well. So that is okay. You share the screen, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to do that. Okay, is the screen visible with a child on it, or a blank red screen?
No, I cannot see it now.
Now?
No, I'm sorry. It's not visible. So if you could share the link with us, we're going to post it separately there. Yeah?
Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for having me. And you guys are doing a fabulous job getting all the NGOs together and sort of increasing the outreach and the scalability of what we can do together and make a difference to a larger canvas of people. So yes, thank you for having me. And yes, we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, Payal. It was a pleasure having you. And NGO Story will continue to empower NGOs. So thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.